Have you ever felt the need to be alone, yet found it hard to embrace it? Are you afraid of being lonely, or do you see it as an opportunity for growth? What would it feel like if you could live your life with confidence, even when no one else is around? Imagine this. You're sitting in a quiet room, by yourself, with nothing but your thoughts. No distractions, no outside noise, just you and the present moment. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, even unnerving, but soon, you begin to notice the calmness in the air. The more you embrace solitude, the more you realize something amazing. It's in these moments that you truly connect with yourself. This is what living alone can offer. Not loneliness, but freedom, clarity, and peace. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, where we explore deep insights into living a more mindful and fulfilling life. In this video, we'll explore how you can be ready to live alone, not out of necessity, but as a choice that empowers you. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. Did you know that so many people watch our videos, but only 0.2% subscribe? Yes, that's right, just a tiny percentage. If you want more life-changing insights like this, take a moment to hit the like, comment, share, and subscribe buttons now. It helps us reach more people like you and keep creating valuable content for your journey. In this video, we'll be talking about why living alone isn't something to fear but something to prepare for. We'll discover how, through the wisdom of Buddhism, we can learn to be comfortable with ourselves, no matter the circumstances. Solitude is often misunderstood as isolation, but in reality, it's a doorway to self-discovery and growth. Are you ready to learn how to embrace living alone with strength and wisdom? Stay tuned, because what comes next might just change the way you see yourself and the world around you. Understanding self-reliance through Buddhist teachings. In life, we often find ourselves seeking others for support, for validation, or simply for companionship. We look to family, friends, or even strangers to fill the spaces within us. But the truth is, there is a deeper form of strength, one that comes from within, not from outside. This is the strength of self-reliance, a principle rooted deeply in the teachings of Buddhism. Buddhism tells us that everything is temporary. Relationships, objects, and even emotions. Nothing lasts forever. While it's natural to form connections with others, the true path to inner peace begins when we stop depending on others for our happiness. Imagine you're standing on a mountain, looking out at the vast horizon. The winds may blow, the rain may fall, but the mountain remains solid and unshaken. This is how we are meant to be, strong, grounded, and unwavering in our own presence. In Buddhism, this strength is referred to as svadharma, or self-dharma, which is the unique path each person walks. It is not the path of another, not the advice of someone else, but the path that comes from deeply understanding who we are and what we truly need. Self-reliance doesn't mean that we should isolate ourselves from others or reject all relationships. It simply means that we must learn to rely on our own inner wisdom and resources, rather than constantly seeking approval or support from the outside world. It is about standing firmly in our own truth, trusting our intuition, and finding peace in our own presence. The Buddha himself understood the importance of self-reliance. When he meditated under the Bodhi tree, he sought enlightenment not through external sources, but by turning inward. He faced the challenges of his mind, his emotions, and his desires. He did not run from them or seek distraction, but sat with them, observing them without judgment. Through this deep meditation, he found that true peace comes from within. When we are able to sit with our thoughts, our feelings, and our experiences without becoming lost in them. In our modern lives, this principle of self-reliance can be difficult to practice. We live in a world full of distractions, noise, and constant connection. Social media, news, and the opinions of others bombard us daily. In this environment, it can feel impossible to hear our own voice, much less trust it. But this is where the teachings of Buddhism offer us guidance. The key is to return to the present moment, to quiet the noise, and to listen deeply to our inner wisdom. When you begin to embrace self-reliance, you start to see that you are not alone. You have everything you need within you. The strength you seek is not something that others can give you. It is something that you can uncover in yourself. Buddhism teaches us that we are already whole, that we are already complete. We do not need to look outside ourselves for fulfillment or meaning. Instead, We must cultivate mindfulness and awareness in every moment, and by doing so, we tap into the wellspring of wisdom that lies within. Living alone can be one of the most powerful ways to cultivate this sense of self-reliance. In solitude, you are free from the distractions and expectations of others. You are free to simply be. It is in these quiet moments that we begin to truly understand ourselves. The noise of the world fades away, and we are left with our own thoughts, our own heart, and our own mind. This is where the magic happens. This is where true growth and transformation can occur. It may seem challenging at first to live without constant companionship or support. But the Buddhist teachings remind us that everything is impermanent, including our need for others. When we let go of this attachment to others for our happiness, we can begin to live fully in the present moment. And in this moment, we find that we are enough. We are already complete. True self-reliance does not come from avoiding relationships or shying away from connection. Rather, it comes from the understanding that we are whole, regardless of our circumstances. When we are able to stand strong in our own being, we can offer love and compassion to others without the need for validation or dependence. This is the power of self-reliance. It frees us to love, to give, and to be present without fear. To develop self-reliance, begin by practicing mindfulness. Notice the thoughts that arise in your mind without attaching to them. Notice your emotions without letting them control you. Allow yourself to simply be present, without judgment. Through mindfulness, you begin to build a strong foundation of self-awareness that will support you through the challenges of life, including the challenge of living alone. In Buddhism, there is a practice known as vipassana meditation, which is often translated as insight meditation. This practice helps us to see things as they truly are, without distortion. Through vipassana, we learn to observe the workings of our mind and emotions, to see them without getting caught up in them. Over time, this practice helps to develop a sense of equanimity, inner calm and balance, no matter what external circumstances may arise. Equanimity is a crucial aspect of self-reliance. When you develop equanimity, you are not shaken by the ups and downs of life. You can face challenges with a sense of peace and clarity. This inner calm allows you to move through life with confidence, knowing that you are capable of handling whatever comes your way, without needing others to fix things for you. To truly understand self-reliance, it is important to understand that the path to inner peace is not about striving or achieving. It is about letting go of the need for external validation and trusting that everything you need is already inside you. When we are able to let go of attachment and expectation, we can begin to experience life as it is, in its raw and beautiful simplicity. Living alone is not an act of isolation. It is an act of liberation. It is a chance to turn inward and discover who you really are, without the distractions and expectations of others. It is a chance to connect with your true self, the self that exists beyond the roles and labels that others may place upon you. As you move forward on this journey of self-reliance, remember that you are not alone. You have the support of the universe, of your own inner wisdom, and of the countless teachings that have been passed down through generations. Trust in yourself, trust in your path, and know that you are enough. You are already whole, and with this understanding, you can live a life of freedom, peace, and inner strength. Living alone may seem daunting at first, but it is through this experience that you will uncover the most valuable treasure of all, your true self. When you are ready to embrace solitude, you will find that you are never truly alone. You are always connected to the wisdom that resides within you, and with that wisdom, you can navigate any challenge, overcome any fear, and live a life that is full of meaning and purpose. The art of emotional independence. To live alone is not simply about being physically by yourself. It's about standing firm in the face of your own emotions, being able to witness them without allowing them to control your life. This is emotional independence. It's not something that happens overnight, but it is a practice. And like all practices, it gets stronger with time and patience. Emotions are like waves. They rise, they fall, they come and go. Sometimes they crash fiercely. Other times they gently roll onto the shore. But if you've ever tried to hold on to a wave, you know how futile it can be. You can't stop the wave from coming, nor can you hold it forever. It's the same with emotions. They will come and they will go. The trick is not to cling to them, not to be swept away by them. The Buddha taught us about the nature of suffering. He said that much of our suffering comes from attachment. We get attached to our feelings, to our desires, to our need for comfort and approval. But true freedom comes when we stop clinging. When we learn to sit with our emotions, without getting lost in them, we find peace. Living alone can be an opportunity to practice this kind of emotional freedom. When there is no one else around, when there is no external distraction, you are left with your own feelings. And here's the secret. You don't have to act on every feeling that arises. You can simply observe them. You can watch your emotions like a cloud passing across the sky. It's there, but it doesn't need to stay. It will pass, just like everything else. Emotional independence means that you don't need other people to complete you or to make you feel better. It means you can find contentment within yourself. When you're alone, you can focus on your own thoughts and feelings without being swayed by the expectations or judgments of others. It's in these moments that you begin to understand that you are enough. You are complete as you are. This doesn't mean that you won't feel loneliness or sadness from time to time. These emotions are part of life. But emotional independence gives you the strength to face them without fear. It teaches you to be gentle with yourself when these feelings arise, to acknowledge them, and to let them pass. It's like watching the rain fall. You don't try to stop it, you don't resist it. You just let it come, and then you let it go. One of the most powerful teachings in Buddhism is about impermanence. Nothing lasts forever, not even our emotions. Happiness doesn't last, but neither does sorrow. This understanding gives us the freedom to not be attached to any one feeling. If we can embrace this truth, we can begin to see emotions for what they truly are: temporary visitors in the landscape of our mind. This practice of emotional independence is especially important when you live alone. In solitude, you may encounter moments of loneliness, but instead of running away from them, you learn to sit with them. You realize that being alone does not mean being lonely. Loneliness comes from the belief that something is missing, that you need someone else to complete you. But when you understand that you are already complete, you no longer feel the need for external validation. Take a moment and think about how often you rely on others to uplift your mood. Maybe you call a friend when you feel down, or seek comfort in a partner's presence. There's nothing wrong with seeking support, but emotional independence means that you can find peace within yourself without needing to depend on anyone else. It's about being your own source of strength. When you live alone, you have the opportunity to create a deeper connection with yourself. It's not about ignoring your feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about understanding them without being controlled by them. When you can sit quietly and just be, you begin to realize that you are much more than your emotions. You are the observer of your emotions. You are the stillness that watches the storm pass by. Living alone allows you to cultivate a sense of inner peace. It's like the stillness of a pond, reflecting the sky. When you're not constantly reacting to external events or the moods of others, you become like that pond, calm, clear, and steady. And just like the pond, your peace remains unshaken, no matter what emotions arise. You can experience sadness, but you don't have to let it define you. You can feel joy, but you don't have to chase it. You can be at peace with whatever comes your way. One of the great benefits of emotional independence is that it frees you from the need to prove yourself to others. So much of our emotional energy goes into seeking approval, trying to fit in, or meeting the expectations of those around us. But when you live alone, you are free from these pressures. You can simply be yourself. You no longer have to wear a mask or play a role. You can drop the act and live in alignment with your true self. When you live in a world where everyone is constantly connected, it's easy to forget the power of solitude. We are always texting, calling, checking social media, or asking for validation from others. But the truth is, real emotional strength comes from being comfortable with yourself in your own company. The more you learn to live alone, the more you realize that you don't need to be constantly connected to feel whole. You are whole just as you are. In the silence of solitude, you can begin to hear the deeper voice within you. It's the voice of wisdom, the voice that has been there all along, waiting for you to listen. This is the voice that tells you that you are enough, that you are not broken, and that you are worthy of love just as you are. When you live alone, you give yourself the gift of hearing this voice more clearly. Emotional independence does not mean shutting yourself off from the world. It simply means that you do not let the world control your inner state. You learn to remain steady, even when the external world is in chaos. This kind of inner stability allows you to navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. As you continue to practice emotional independence, you will notice a shift in your relationships with others. You will no longer seek to take from others, to fill a void, or to find your worth in someone else. Instead, you will come to relationships with a sense of wholeness, offering love and connection without needing anything in return. You will become less dependent on others for your happiness and more focused on creating joy within yourself. Remember, living alone doesn't mean you have to be cold or distant. It means you are learning to stand firm in who you are, without needing the constant presence or validation of others. It's about finding peace within yourself, in your own company. And once you learn to do this, you will see that emotional independence is not only possible, but it is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself. Detaching from the illusion of permanence. The world around you is constantly changing. You can see it in nature, in the people you meet, and even in yourself. Nothing stays the same forever. Yet, most of us live as if everything is permanent. We attach ourselves to things, to people, to moments, and we forget that they are as fleeting as the seasons. Let's begin with a simple truth. Everything in life is temporary. The joy you feel today, the struggles you face tomorrow, they are all passing moments. The more we resist this truth, the more we suffer. The pain of loss, the fear of change, the worry about the future. These arise because we have mistaken the temporary for the permanent. Take a deep breath and think about it. When was the last time you held on to something, hoping it would never change? Maybe it was a relationship, a job, or even a place you called home. The more tightly you grasp, the more you lose your sense of peace. The more you resist, the greater the suffering becomes. Buddhism teaches us that attachment is the root of suffering. When we cling to the idea that things should never change, we set ourselves up for disappointment. It's not the changing world that causes us pain, but our resistance to it. When we understand that all things are temporary, we begin to free ourselves from the burden of attachment. We no longer fear change. We no longer feel as though we are losing something. Instead, we learn to flow with life, like a river flowing smoothly through the valley. But how do we detach from the illusion of permanence? First, we must understand that it's okay to let go. Letting go does not mean we no longer care. It simply means we recognize that nothing lasts forever, and that's perfectly fine. The beauty of life lies in its impermanence. A flower blooms for a short time, but it is no less beautiful because it fades. In fact, its beauty is enhanced because we know it will not last forever. Think about a moment in your life when you held on to something for dear life. Maybe it was a friendship that wasn't serving you, or a job that you no longer loved. Perhaps you stayed in a place, physical or mental, because you were afraid of the change that letting go would bring. Now, think about how much lighter you feel when you finally let go. When you stop holding on to the illusion of permanence, you free yourself. You open up space for something new to come into your life. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop trying to control the flow of life. You stop resisting the natural rhythm of things. Instead of seeing change as a threat, you begin to see it as an opportunity for growth. You begin to realize that, just like the seasons, there is a time for everything. A time to plant, a time to bloom, and a time to let go. It's all part of the cycle. The Buddha spoke about this truth often. He taught that attachment leads to suffering, and by releasing our grip on the things we cling to, we find freedom. But how do we do this in our daily lives? How do we begin to detach from the things that we believe define us? Start small. Begin by looking at the things you are attached to, the things you think you cannot live without. It could be an object, a habit, or even a person. Ask yourself, what would happen if I let go? Would the world fall apart? Would I be lost? In truth, letting go often brings more peace than holding on ever could. You may think, but I need this to be happy. Or, I can't live without this. These thoughts are part of the illusion. The truth is that happiness does not come from possessions or people. It comes from within. It comes from the acceptance of impermanence. It comes from being present, not attached to what was or what will be, but simply being in the moment. Letting go doesn't mean you no longer love or care. It means you allow things to come and go as they naturally will. You allow yourself to feel the joy and the pain without holding on to either. You begin to see life as a series of moments, each one precious because it will pass. When you let go of the need to control, you open yourself up to the beauty of each moment, just as it is. Look at your life and ask yourself, what am I holding on to? What am I afraid to let go of? The truth is that the more you hold on, the more you will suffer. The more you resist the natural flow of life, the more pain you will experience. But when you let go, you create space for peace, for clarity, and for freedom. You are no longer bound by your attachments. You are free to live fully in the present. Buddhism teaches us that detachment does not mean coldness or indifference. It means that you are no longer defined by the things you hold on to. You are free to experience life as it is, without clinging to the past or fearing the future. You are like a leaf in the wind, allowing yourself to be carried by the natural currents of life, without resistance, without fear. One of the key teachings of the Buddha is the understanding of the Four Noble Truths. The first truth teaches us that suffering is an inevitable part of life. The second truth tells us that the cause of suffering is attachment. The third truth reminds us that there is an end to suffering, and that end is found through detachment. The fourth truth shows us the path to freedom, the Eightfold Path, which guides us toward living a life of mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. As you walk the path of detachment, you begin to see the world differently. You no longer see change as a threat. You see it as an opportunity to grow. You no longer feel the need to control everything around you. You understand that life, in all its beauty and pain, is constantly changing, and that change is something to be embraced, not feared. Living without attachment doesn't mean that you stop caring about the people in your life. It doesn't mean you stop forming relationships or pursuing your dreams. It simply means that you understand that nothing is permanent. You understand that people come and go, opportunities rise and fall, and everything is in constant flux. When you let go of the need to hold on to these things, you can experience them more fully, without the fear of losing them. The wisdom of detachment teaches us to live in the present, to be free from the past, and to let go of the future. When you detach from the illusion of permanence, you open yourself up to a life of freedom. You are no longer bound by expectations, by fears, or by attachments. You are free to live each moment as it comes, knowing that it is enough. Let go of the need to control. Let go of the need to hold on. Trust that everything will unfold as it should. When you detach from the illusion of permanence, you open yourself up to the true beauty of life. You begin to see that life itself is impermanent, and that's what makes it so precious. Each moment, each breath, is a gift, because it won't last forever. Now, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what can I let go of today? What attachment, big or small, can I release? In this moment, choose to live in freedom. Choose to let go of the illusion of permanence and embrace the beauty of impermanence. Finding strength in your inner temple. When the world outside grows noisy and chaotic, there is a place you can always return to, a place of calm, a place of peace. It is not a distant land, nor is it hidden behind walls or doors. This place is inside you, within your very being. It is the strength of your own mind, the depth of your own spirit. This is your inner temple, the source of all the resilience you need to stand tall in any storm. The idea of the inner temple might sound grand or abstract, but it's very simple. It is the quiet, steady presence that resides within you when you strip away everything else. In moments of solitude, when you are alone with your thoughts, you are given the opportunity to connect with this inner sanctuary. You don't need to go anywhere or search for anything outside of yourself. Everything you need to find true peace and strength is already there, quietly waiting for you. In Buddhism, we speak of the mind as the place where all things arise: joy, sorrow, anger, peace, love, and everything in between. The mind is like a garden, and the thoughts we cultivate are the seeds we plant. If we fill our minds with peace and stillness, we begin to see that our true nature is like a calm lake, undisturbed by the winds. But if our thoughts are constantly busy, like waves crashing on the shore, then we may find ourselves lost in confusion and turmoil. The beauty of solitude is that it gives us a chance to clear the mind. Just as a gardener clears the weeds from the garden, you have the power to clear your mind of the clutter that distracts you. You have the ability to pause and choose the thoughts that nurture peace, rather than allowing those that bring stress to take over. The practice of meditation is one way to cultivate this inner garden. By sitting quietly, focusing on your breath, and simply being present, you create a space where your true strength can emerge. It's important to understand that this inner strength is not something that comes from pushing away or rejecting your emotions. Rather, it comes from accepting them fully, without judgment. In solitude, you may encounter sadness, fear, or loneliness. These feelings are natural, but they don't define you. They are visitors that come and go, just like the weather. By sitting with them, observing them without attachment, you begin to find the strength to rise above them. This is why it is so essential to learn to live alone. It is not about escaping the world or shutting out others. It is about learning to stand firm in your own strength, even when no one else is around. When you are alone, you have the opportunity to face yourself, your true self, without distractions. This is the moment when you can begin to see clearly who you are and what you are capable of. Living alone, in this sense, is an act of courage. It's an act of self-love. You are giving yourself the time and space to grow, to deepen your understanding of your own heart and mind. This inner strength that arises from solitude is not fragile or temporary. It is like the mountain that stands firm against the wind, unshaken by the storms that come and go. It is unchanging, a solid foundation that you can always rely on. Think of the lotus flower, which grows in muddy water. Its roots are deep in the muck, but it rises above, untouched by the dirt. It does not try to escape the mud, nor does it resist it. Instead, it uses the mud to nourish itself and rise above. In the same way, your inner temple can rise above the challenges and difficulties you face in life. The storms may come, but they will not disturb your peace if you are rooted in your inner strength. You may wonder, how can I tap into this inner temple when I feel overwhelmed or lost? The answer is simple. Return to the breath. Your breath is the anchor that connects you to the present moment. When you focus on your breath, you bring yourself back to the here and now. The breath is always with you. It does not leave, it does not judge, and it does not demand anything from you. It simply is. By focusing on the breath, you begin to calm the mind and quiet the noise of the world. This is the first step toward finding the strength within you. Another way to strengthen your inner temple is through the practice of gratitude. When you are alone, it can be easy to focus on what you lack or what you're missing. But the truth is that you have everything you need right now, in this very moment. Take a moment each day to reflect on the things you are grateful for. Your health, your breath, the beauty of the world around you. Gratitude shifts your perspective, turning your attention from what is absent to what is abundant. It helps you see that you are already whole, already complete, and that you have the power to face any challenge with courage and grace. You may also find strength in the simplicity of everyday life. In the Buddhist tradition, there is great wisdom in the simple act of doing. Whether you are washing dishes, walking in nature, or sitting in silence, these moments offer an opportunity to reconnect with your inner strength. There is no need to look for strength in grand accomplishments or achievements. True strength is found in the simple, everyday acts of being present and mindful. When you make solitude a regular part of your life, you begin to see that you are not alone in a lonely way. Instead, you are simply alone with yourself, and in that space, you find your true power. You no longer depend on external circumstances or other people to define who you are. You are enough, just as you are, in this moment. It's also important to remember that you are not trying to fix yourself. There is nothing broken within you. The practice of finding strength within yourself is not about changing who you are, but rather about rediscovering the true essence of who you have always been. This strength is not something you need to create or force. It is already present, waiting for you to notice it. The more you practice returning to this inner temple, the more natural it becomes. Over time, you begin to see that you are not at the mercy of your circumstances, but that you have the power to create peace within yourself, regardless of what is happening around you. Your inner strength becomes a solid foundation upon which you can build your life, no matter how stormy the outside world may be. As you continue on this path, you will begin to see that living alone is not a punishment or a burden. It is an opportunity, a gift, to reconnect with your true self and to find the strength that has always been there, waiting for you to embrace it. The power of your inner temple is yours to discover and nurture. In solitude, you will find that you are never truly alone, for you carry within you a peace and strength that no external force can take away. So, take a moment today to sit quietly, to breathe deeply, and to connect with the temple within you. This inner peace is always available, always waiting for you. In that peace, you will find the strength to face anything that comes your way, breaking free from the chains of attachment. In the dance of life, we often hold on to things, people, places, and possessions, believing they are necessary for our happiness. This attachment is like a chain, silently binding us to the past, to expectations, and to fleeting moments. But the truth is, attachment keeps us from living fully in the present. It traps us in a cycle of desire, fear, and dissatisfaction. Imagine you're holding onto a rope, pulling it tight with all your strength. The tighter you hold, the more it pulls back. If you let go, the tension is released. This is what attachment does. It creates tension in your life. It pulls you in different directions, making it difficult to find peace. Buddhism teaches us that attachment is the root of suffering. We become attached to the idea of how things should be, to how we want people to behave, to how we expect life to unfold. But nothing is permanent. Life is constantly changing. People come and go, situations shift, and things wear out. When we hold on to these things too tightly, we suffer. To live alone with peace, we must learn to loosen the grip of attachment. It's not about giving up everything or living without connections. It's about understanding that our happiness doesn't come from outside things. True peace comes from within. When we release our attachment to the external, we free ourselves to experience life as it is, without the need to control or possess it. Let's take a simple example. Think about a tree. A tree is rooted firmly in the ground, yet its leaves fall with the changing seasons. It doesn't resist the fall, it simply lets go. The tree understands that change is part of life. It doesn't mourn the loss of the leaves, because it knows they will return in time. In the same way, we can learn to let go of the things and people that no longer serve us, knowing that life will continue to unfold in beautiful ways. To break free from the chains of attachment, we must first recognize where we are holding on. Ask yourself, what am I attached to? What do I fear losing? It might be a relationship, a job, a dream, or even a particular image of yourself. Once you identify these attachments, you can begin to let go, little by little. The process of letting go is not always easy. It can be painful, even frightening, but it is also incredibly liberating. When you release the need to control or possess, you open yourself to a world of possibilities. You begin to see life not as a series of attachments to cling to, but as an ever-changing flow that you can ride with grace. In Buddhism, there is a practice known as renunciation. This doesn't mean renouncing everything in your life, but rather renouncing the attachment to things, to outcomes, and to desires. It's about seeing everything as impermanent and allowing it to come and go without clinging. Imagine walking through a field, feeling the breeze on your face, hearing the rustling of the leaves. You don't try to hold on to the breeze or the leaves because you know they are fleeting. Instead, you enjoy them fully in the moment. This is how we can approach life, fully engaged, yet not attached. Living alone can be a profound opportunity to practice letting go. When you are by yourself, there are no distractions, no one to please, and no need to hold on to anything outside of yourself for happiness. It's just you, in the present moment, free to explore what truly brings you peace. One of the most powerful tools to break free from attachment is mindfulness. By practicing mindfulness, you learn to observe your thoughts and feelings without becoming attached to them. You notice when you start to cling to an idea or a desire, and you gently let it go. With practice, you become less attached to the ups and downs of life and more anchored in your own inner peace. Another important aspect of breaking free from attachment is learning to trust yourself. Often, we hold on to things because we don't trust that we can handle life without them. We fear that if we let go, we will be left with nothing. But the truth is, you are enough. You have everything you need within you to live a fulfilling and peaceful life, regardless of external circumstances. To trust yourself is to trust the flow of life. It's to trust that you can handle whatever comes your way, even if it's difficult. And as you begin to trust, you'll find that you are no longer dependent on the things and people around you for your sense of worth. You'll realize that you are whole, just as you are. The more you practice letting go, the more you will experience freedom. You'll begin to notice that your mind becomes quieter, your heart becomes lighter, and your life becomes more open. You will no longer be weighed down by the chains of attachment, but will instead float freely, like a leaf on the wind. Of course, this doesn't mean you stop caring about the things that matter. It doesn't mean you stop loving people or pursuing your goals. It means that you do so without clinging. You give your love freely, knowing that it will not be tied to conditions or expectations. You pursue your dreams with passion, but without the need to control the outcome. In time, you will find that living alone is not about being isolated or disconnected, but about reconnecting with your true self. It is in solitude that you can break free from the distractions and attachments that keep you from realizing your fullest potential. So, how do you begin? Start by taking small steps. Begin with the things that are easiest to release. Perhaps it's a possession you no longer need, or a relationship that has run its course. As you let go of these things, notice how you feel. Do you feel lighter? More free? These small acts of letting go will build your confidence and help you trust in your ability to live without attachment. Remember, the process of breaking free from attachment is not something that happens overnight. It's a journey, a practice, and a way of being. But with patience and persistence, you will find that the chains of attachment begin to loosen, and you are free to live fully, deeply, and with joy. Embrace this practice with an open heart. Let go of what no longer serves you, and make room for the beauty and peace that come from within. When you free yourself from the chains of attachment, you open yourself to a life that is truly your own. A life of freedom, peace, and endless possibilities. Meditative practices for solitude and growth. Living alone can seem daunting at first, but it is in this quiet solitude that we can truly meet ourselves. To be comfortable in silence, to embrace stillness, and to find peace in moments of isolation requires practice. In Buddhism, we learn that everything is temporary, including our discomforts. This understanding allows us to sit with ourselves, calmly, without the need to flee. Solitude is not an enemy, but a teacher. The first step in embracing solitude is cultivating the art of meditation. When you are alone, it can feel like the world is moving on without you. Thoughts swirl like a storm in your mind, pulling you in every direction. But meditation teaches us to sit with those thoughts, to observe them, without becoming them. This is the key to understanding the mind's nature. Imagine yourself sitting in a quiet space, perhaps on a cushion or in a chair, your back straight but relaxed. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. Inhale deeply through your nose, feeling the air fill your lungs. Exhale slowly, releasing all tension. With each breath, feel yourself grounded in the present moment. You are not trying to escape your thoughts. You are simply watching them pass by, like clouds floating in the sky. At first, your mind may resist. It will pull you towards past regrets or future worries. This is natural. But with time, the practice of meditation helps you realize that you do not have to follow those thoughts. You can simply observe them and let them drift away. Each time you meditate, you train your mind to be less reactive, more aware, and more present. In the beginning, meditation might feel uncomfortable. Our minds are not used to stillness. We are so accustomed to constant stimulation, to the noise of the world around us. But in those moments of quiet, we find clarity. We begin to understand that silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is the space where insight arises. Through meditation, we start to uncover layers of our inner world that we were too busy to notice before. There is a beautiful saying in Buddhism: the mind is like a garden. If you do not tend to it, weeds will grow. Meditation is the practice of tending to your garden. It helps you clear away the weeds of worry, fear, and anxiety. With each breath, you nurture a sense of peace and stillness within. The more you meditate, the more you create an inner sanctuary, a space where you can always find refuge, no matter the circumstances. As you continue your practice, you will notice that it becomes easier to sit with discomfort. The silence will no longer feel like an empty void, but rather a peaceful refuge. You will begin to enjoy your own company, finding solace in the present moment. You will see that being alone does not mean being lonely. It means being free. Another key practice in Buddhism is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the ability to be fully present in whatever you are doing, without judgment or distraction. Whether you are eating, walking, or even washing dishes, mindfulness invites you to experience life with full awareness. When you live alone, mindfulness becomes a powerful tool for self-care. It allows you to engage with your surroundings, your thoughts, and your emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. Mindfulness does not require special conditions. You can practice it anywhere, at any time. When you eat, focus on the taste, the texture, and the smell of your food. When you walk, pay attention to each step, the movement of your body, and the sensation of your feet on the ground. By practicing mindfulness in these everyday moments, you begin to build a deeper connection with yourself. Through meditation and mindfulness, we learn to embrace our aloneness without fear. We understand that solitude is not something to avoid, but something to cherish. It is in these moments of stillness that we can hear the quiet whispers of our heart. We can connect with our true selves, beyond the noise of the world and the expectations of others. In Buddhism, there is a concept called sunyata, which means emptiness or void. But this emptiness is not something to be afraid of. It is not a barren space. It is the space of infinite possibility. When you live alone, you may feel empty at times, but that emptiness is full of potential. It is a space where you can grow, where you can reflect, and where you can transform. The more you meditate and practice mindfulness, the more you begin to see the beauty in your solitude. You realize that you do not need others to complete you. You are already whole. The practice of sitting with yourself, of being alone, becomes an act of self-love. You honor yourself by giving yourself the time and space to simply be. When you live alone, you may also encounter moments of deep loneliness. This is a natural part of the human experience. But loneliness is not something to be avoided. Instead, it is something to be understood. When we feel lonely, it often stems from the belief that we are separate from others, that we are disconnected. But Buddhism teaches us that all things are interconnected. We are not separate from the world around us. We are a part of it. In these moments of loneliness, meditation and mindfulness can help us shift our perspective. We begin to see that loneliness is just a feeling, a passing state. It does not define us. We are never truly alone because we are part of the vast interconnected web of life. When we realize this, loneliness loses its power over us. It becomes just another thought, another experience to observe. As you continue to practice meditation and mindfulness, you will notice that your relationship with yourself deepens. You will begin to appreciate your own company. The fear of being alone will fade, replaced by a sense of peace and contentment. You will realize that being alone is not something to fear. It is an opportunity for growth. In Buddhism, we are encouraged to see the world with fresh eyes, to let go of our attachments, and to embrace the present moment. When we live alone, we are given the opportunity to practice this in a profound way. We can let go of our need for external validation, our desire for companionship, and our fear of loneliness. Instead, we can simply be. Living alone is not a curse, it is a blessing. It is an invitation to discover who you truly are, beyond the roles you play for others. It is a chance to cultivate inner peace, clarity, and strength. Through meditation and mindfulness, we learn to embrace solitude as a path to wisdom and growth. In the end, it is not the circumstances of our lives that shape us, it is how we respond to them. Meditation, mindfulness, and the practice of being alone help us to respond with wisdom, compassion, and peace. So, take a moment to sit with yourself, to breathe, to reflect. In that silence, you will find the answers you seek. You will find your true self. Navigating loneliness with mindfulness. Loneliness is a feeling we all know too well. At some point in our lives, we have all experienced that deep, empty ache that comes when we find ourselves alone, longing for connection. But what if I told you that loneliness, like everything else in life, is not something to fear? What if it is simply an invitation to turn inward, to reconnect with the most important person in your life? You? In Buddhism, there is a deep understanding that the root of suffering often lies in our attachment to others and to external things. We tend to believe that our happiness depends on others being around, on constant companionship, and on the affirmation of those around us. But true peace, the kind that lasts, can only be found within. The path to living alone with contentment begins with this realization. When loneliness comes, it is not a sign of something broken. It is not something that needs to be fixed or avoided. It is a signal, a whisper from your soul, inviting you to be present with yourself. In those moments, instead of running away from the feeling, sit with it. Watch it. Let it be. Do not resist. Just observe. And in that observation, you will find that loneliness, like all feelings, is impermanent. It arises, stays for a moment, and then fades away. Mindfulness, the practice of being fully present in the moment, is the key to navigating loneliness. When we practice mindfulness, we stop looking for happiness outside ourselves. We stop searching for distractions. We stop waiting for someone else to fill the emptiness. Instead, we learn to be content with our own company. Start by finding a quiet place where you can sit comfortably, without distractions. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Feel your body in the present moment. Notice the sensations in your body, the rise and fall of your chest with each breath. Feel the ground beneath you, supporting you. Allow your thoughts to come and go, like clouds drifting across the sky. Don't hold on to them. Just let them pass. Now, turn your attention inward. If you are feeling lonely, acknowledge it. Don't push it away. Don't judge yourself for feeling this way. It is part of being human. But also remember, it is not who you are. You are not your loneliness. You are the observer of it. And as you observe, you will see that it has no power over you. Mindfulness teaches us that nothing is permanent. This includes loneliness. The more you practice being mindful in the presence of loneliness, the more you will realize that it is just a passing moment, a fleeting sensation. And when you begin to understand this, the power of loneliness begins to fade. It no longer holds the grip over you that it once did. Loneliness also offers us a precious opportunity for self-reflection. When we are alone, we are given the space to get to know ourselves better. In the noise of everyday life, it's easy to lose touch with who we truly are. But when we are alone, we are invited to listen to our inner voice. What does it say? What does it need? What does it desire? Sometimes, loneliness is just a reminder that we have neglected our own needs. Perhaps we've been too focused on others, or too busy chasing after external validation. Being alone gives us the chance to pause and reflect on whether we are living in alignment with our true selves. Are we honoring our needs, our desires, our values? Are we creating a life that nourishes us? Or are we merely trying to fill the emptiness with distractions? Another aspect of mindfulness is acceptance. Loneliness often arises because we resist it. We think it is something to be avoided or fixed. But in truth, loneliness is a part of life, just as joy and sorrow are. If we can accept loneliness as it is, without judgment or fear, we can transform it. Instead of seeing it as a problem, we can see it as an opportunity to grow. Imagine standing in front of a storm. If you fight it, you will only exhaust yourself. But if you stand still, you will see that the storm will pass. The same is true with loneliness. If you try to run from it, it will only follow you. But if you stand still, if you accept it, you will see that it fades away on its own. And when it does, you will feel lighter, freer. When you are able to embrace loneliness, to sit with it and observe it, you open yourself up to the deeper truths of life. You begin to understand that you are whole, even when alone. You do not need anyone else to complete you. You are already complete. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a powerful teaching called the 3 marks of existence: impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Loneliness is a perfect example of all 3. It is impermanent. It arises and passes away. It is a form of suffering, but this suffering is not something to fear. It is simply a natural part of life. And it is a reminder that the self we identify with is not fixed or permanent. We are ever-changing, constantly evolving. When we practice mindfulness, we begin to see the truth behind these teachings. we see that loneliness is not something that defines us. It is simply a feeling, a passing experience. And as we observe it without attachment, we free ourselves from its grip. As we continue to live alone, mindfulness helps us deepen our connection with ourselves. We no longer rely on external sources of validation. We no longer feel the need to fill our lives with distractions. Instead, we find joy in the simple act of being. We realize that our true nature is peace, and when we are at peace with ourselves, we are never truly alone. Living alone can be one of the greatest gifts we give ourselves. It allows us to cultivate the space we need to grow, to reflect, and to connect with our inner wisdom. And mindfulness is the key to unlocking this gift. So, the next time you feel loneliness creeping in, instead of running from it, take a deep breath and welcome it. Sit with it, observe it, and in doing so, you will discover that you are not only capable of living alone, you are capable of living with profound peace and joy. The power of mindfulness transforms the experience of being alone into an opportunity for growth, self-awareness, and deep inner peace. With practice, you will no longer see loneliness as a burden, but as a teacher, showing you the way to a more authentic and fulfilling life. And as you continue on this path, you will find that the more comfortable you become in your own presence, the more open you will be to the world around you. Being alone is not an absence of something. It is the presence of everything you need. Cultivating gratitude in isolation. When we find ourselves alone, a quiet space opens up. In the silence, we can hear the whispers of our own thoughts. It is easy to become distracted by what is missing in these moments, but true wisdom begins when we stop looking outward and start looking inward. Gratitude does not come from the things we have or the people around us. It comes from within. The heart, when touched by solitude, can either sink into despair or bloom with gratitude. The key is to recognize that being alone is not a punishment, but a gift. In Buddhism, we understand that everything is impermanent, and that includes our relationships and our surroundings. What remains constant is our ability to cultivate an inner sense of peace, and from that peace, gratitude flows naturally. Imagine sitting alone in a room. Perhaps the quiet feels heavy at first, and you may wonder what to do with the stillness. But then, something begins to shift. As your mind settles, you start noticing the small things. The air filling your lungs, the warmth of sunlight coming through the window, the simple presence of your own breath. These moments, so often overlooked in the rush of daily life, become sources of gratitude. You realize that there is so much to be thankful for, even in the simplest of moments. Gratitude is not about having more, but about appreciating what you already possess. In solitude, the mind is clearer, less clouded by distractions. You begin to appreciate the space you have to simply be. You may even find that what once seemed like an empty room is now filled with quiet blessings. Your health, your thoughts, your ability to breathe, to feel, to think. These gifts, while invisible to the eye, are the most profound forms of abundance. In Buddhism, we speak of right mindfulness, the practice of being aware of the present moment. Through mindfulness, we learn to notice what we already have, rather than constantly striving for more. This doesn't mean we abandon our desires or goals, but it means we live with an open heart, thankful for the journey we are on, regardless of where it takes us. When we are alone, we often notice what we don't have: companionship, attention, or even material possessions. But in those moments, we are called to look deeper. We are reminded that true richness does not come from external things. It comes from our ability to be fully present with ourselves, to accept ourselves as we are, and to embrace the moment as it is. Think about the last time you truly felt grateful. Perhaps it was for a quiet morning, or a peaceful walk through nature. Maybe it was a moment of reflection where you realized how far you've come in life, or how much you've learned from your experiences. These moments of gratitude come not when we expect them, but when we allow ourselves to be open to them. In solitude, we can open our hearts to the fullness of what is around us, and in doing so, we find a deep well of gratitude that was always there, waiting to be discovered. Being alone allows us to pause and reflect. We are no longer rushing from one thing to the next, distracted by the noise of the world. In the stillness, we can listen to our own hearts, hear the soft whisper of gratitude, and begin to appreciate what we have, not because it is perfect, but because it is real. Gratitude helps us break free from the trap of comparison. When we are constantly surrounded by others, it is easy to measure our lives against theirs. But when we are alone, we no longer have to compare. We can simply be. We are enough as we are. Our own company becomes a source of contentment, and we find peace in the simplicity of our existence. In Buddhism, there is a teaching called the Four Noble Truths, which remind us that suffering is a part of life. But it is through suffering that we learn and grow. Even in our moments of solitude, when we may feel the sting of loneliness or lack, we can find the seed of gratitude. The very absence of others can make us more aware of the fullness that already exists within us. Gratitude is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about seeing things clearly, as they are, and accepting them without judgment. Even in our isolation, we can find moments of beauty, whether it's the sound of the wind rustling the trees, the warmth of a cup of tea, or the feeling of our feet on the earth. These are the simple, everyday miracles that are always available to us, waiting to be noticed. As we practice gratitude, we begin to see that everything is interconnected. The more we give thanks for what we have, the more we open ourselves to receive even greater blessings. Gratitude has a way of multiplying. It starts with one small acknowledgement, and soon we see how much there is to be thankful for. It becomes a habit, a lens through which we view the world, and it transforms the way we experience solitude. When we can be grateful for the moments of isolation, we no longer fear being alone. Instead, we look forward to these times, knowing they are opportunities for reflection, growth, and deep connection with ourselves. Solitude becomes a space where we can recharge, realign, and renew our sense of purpose. Through gratitude, we also cultivate compassion. The more we appreciate the gifts in our own lives, the more we understand the struggles of others. We realize that we are not alone in our experiences. Every person, in their own way, faces moments of solitude and isolation. Gratitude helps us see the shared humanity in all of us, and it encourages us to reach out, when the time comes, to offer our support and kindness. In the stillness of solitude, we are invited to notice the small miracles, the things we take for granted in the busyness of life. Each breath, each step, each thought is a gift. And when we take the time to recognize this, we begin to feel a deep sense of gratitude for everything that is and everything that is to come. So, when you find yourself alone, don't see it as a void. See it as an opportunity to practice gratitude. Look around, breathe deeply, and allow yourself to appreciate the simple blessings that surround you. Whether it's the warmth of the sun on your face, the peace of the quiet night, or the stillness in your heart, these are all gifts waiting to be acknowledged. And in this gratitude, you will find the peace you seek. You will discover that being alone is not about what is missing, but about what you have, what you already possess, deep within. Gratitude is the key to unlocking the treasure chest of your own heart, and in that space, you will never truly be alone. Living alone with purpose and peace. Living alone is a unique journey, one that allows you to experience life in a way that is deeply personal and peaceful. At first, the idea of being alone may seem daunting, even overwhelming. You may think, what will I do with all this time? How will I face the challenges alone? But the truth is, living alone can be one of the most powerful ways to connect with your true self. It gives you the space to hear your thoughts clearly, to reflect without distraction, and to find purpose in each moment. Buddhism teaches us that the root of much suffering is attachment. We often cling to others for comfort, approval, and a sense of belonging. We seek outside validation because we are afraid of facing ourselves, afraid of being alone with our thoughts. But through the teachings of the Buddha, we learn that true peace comes from within, not from external sources. To live alone with peace, we must first learn to let go of attachments and the need for constant connection with others. When you live alone, you are presented with a unique opportunity to cultivate self-reliance. This does not mean cutting yourself off from others or rejecting relationships. It simply means that you do not rely on others for your happiness. You begin to understand that your peace comes from within, from the stillness of your own heart and mind. You can find joy in solitude, just as the lotus flower blooms in the still waters. The Buddha often spoke of impermanence, the idea that everything in life is temporary. Nothing lasts forever. This includes relationships, possessions, and even emotions. The more we cling to these things, the more we suffer when they change or disappear. When we learn to embrace impermanence, we find freedom. Living alone teaches us that we can adapt to change, that we can find stability even in the most uncertain of times. One of the first steps to living alone with purpose is to embrace your own company. Many people fear being alone because they fear the silence. But silence is not emptiness. It is the space in which you can hear your own thoughts, in which you can listen to your true self. In the quiet, you begin to discover what truly matters to you, what brings you peace, and what your purpose in life is. Start by spending time with yourself each day, in quiet reflection. Sit in silence, focus on your breath, and allow your thoughts to settle. You will be surprised at how much you can learn about yourself in just a few minutes of stillness. As you practice this, you will find that you are not afraid of your own company anymore. You will become your own best friend, someone you can rely on, someone who understands you better than anyone else. Another important aspect of living alone with peace is learning to let go of the need for constant stimulation. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded by distractions, social media, the news, endless to-do lists. We fill our days with noise, hoping to escape from our thoughts, hoping to avoid the discomfort of being alone with ourselves. But true peace comes when we learn to let go of these distractions, when we give ourselves permission to simply be. In Buddhism, the practice of mindfulness teaches us to be present with whatever we are doing, without judgment or attachment. When we are fully present, we are no longer seeking external distractions or approval. We are content with the simplicity of the present moment. Living alone gives you the chance to practice mindfulness in a deeper way. Without the constant noise of other people's lives, you can focus on your own inner experience. You can savor each moment, whether you are eating, walking, or simply sitting in silence. When you live alone, you are also given the opportunity to cultivate discipline and responsibility. In the absence of others, you become the sole caretaker of your life. You must manage your time, your space, your emotions, and your actions. This may feel like a heavy burden at first, but it is also a gift. Through this discipline, you learn to take ownership of your life. You no longer wait for others to create your happiness or make decisions for you. You are the creator of your own life, and this power is deeply liberating. As you move through the days of living alone, you will begin to notice the subtle ways in which your mind changes. You may feel more peaceful, more grounded, and more connected to your inner wisdom. You may find that your relationships with others become more meaningful, not because you depend on them, but because you are no longer seeking validation from them. You are secure in yourself, and this allows you to approach others with genuine love and compassion, not from a place of neediness, but from a place of freedom. One of the greatest gifts that living alone offers is the ability to reconnect with your passions. When you are constantly surrounded by others, it is easy to forget what truly excites you, what makes you feel alive. But when you are alone, you have the time and space to rediscover these things. Whether it is painting, writing, playing music, or simply going for a walk in nature, living alone gives you the opportunity to nurture your creative soul. Through the practice of mindfulness, you begin to see that your life has purpose, even in the smallest moments. The way you breathe, the way you move, the way you speak. Everything becomes an opportunity to connect with the present moment. You realize that living alone is not about being isolated from the world, but about becoming more deeply connected to it. You are not separate from others. You are simply experiencing life in a more authentic way, free from the distractions that often cloud your perception. As you continue to live alone, you may encounter moments of loneliness or difficulty. This is a natural part of the process. The key is not to avoid these feelings, but to sit with them, to allow them to be present without judgment. In these moments, remember the teachings of the Buddha. Everything is impermanent. Emotions, like everything else, will pass. You are not defined by your loneliness, just as you are not defined by your joy. You are simply a witness to these emotions, observing them with compassion and understanding. Living alone with purpose and peace is about learning to be at home with yourself. It is about finding joy in the simple moments, in the quiet times, and in the stillness of your own heart. It is about realizing that you are enough, just as you are, and that true peace comes not from external circumstances, but from within. So, as you continue on your journey of living alone, remember this: you are not alone in your experience. There are millions of people walking the same path, learning the same lessons. And as you embrace your solitude, you are also embracing your true self, your inner peace, and your deep connection to the world around you.